Hi guys and welcome to Simply Hike. Now, I've recently just come back from a wild camping expedition and I noticed there was quite a lot of guys that I was on the expedition with that were actually using 65-litre rucksacks for their wild camp. We were 2 days camping and kind of 3 days trekking. And it kind of stumbled to me like, how can I help reduce that pack load? So I thought, let's make a quick video just to kind of show you the ins and outs of what you need to take when you're wild camping and obviously to help you reduce your load. Now, first off, I'm going to introduce the rucksack. Now, for this video purpose, I've brought a 35-litre Gregory rucksack, the Z series. So as I say, I'm really limiting myself there. So pretty much I'm going to base on how you pack your wild camp bag or rucksack based on what you would actually take on day hiking or day trekking or whatever, but then just adding bits to it, obviously like the tents and stuff. So if you look to me on my left here, we've got all the kit that I'm going to be taking, bar some food. So quite literally, I've got my 2-man tent up here. Yet again, now for storage purposes, I'm actually not going to store it in the bag itself. That's going to sit on the bottom of my rucksack, so it's not going to be in its tunnel. I've got my camelback systems here as well. Now, obviously, it's personal preference. I personally would say go for up to a litres worth of water in a bottle rather than using the bladder, but obviously I know people that like to use the bladder, so I'm just going to quite literally chuck that in there just to kind of show you the space. Obviously, key essentials when it comes to wild camping, obviously apart from the tent, you've got your your first aid kit, you've got your bothy or your storm shelter, and in here I've actually got my sleeping bag. So the reason why I used the stuff sacks rather than keeping the actual sleeping bag itself in its should we say it's a compression bag that you get, is that these X-Bed rucksacks are actually fully waterproof. So really, if you'll get stuck out in the wilderness absolutely chucking it down, because I'm storing everything in dry bags, it will actually keep everything dry. Obviously the tent itself is waterproof anyway, and that's just going to be sitting on the bottom part. So when I open it up, quite literally, if it does rain, I can just give the tent a quick shake and then pitch it, and then it should be ready to go. But yeah, I mean, as you can see, this is a 3-season sleeping bag, down one, that I can just stuff into the compression sack. Kind of roll it up. Now obviously the trick is you've got to try and get some of the air out, and then kind of roll it a couple of times, 2, and on the 3rd, like that. So now that is all stowed in there, but as I say, if the heavens do open, my sleeping bag, obviously because this is a down sleeping bag, will stay absolutely dry, and this is just due to the dry bag technology. Same goes for in the blue sack here. I actually do have my over trousers, my Gore-Tex Berghaus over trousers, as well as my nice lightweight Mammut jacket as well. And as I say, just popping them in there. If the heavens do open, even though these are waterproof, it's just about also organisation. Just stuffing them in there. As I say, you don't have to be neat about it. Obviously, I've got quite a big bag for them anyway. And then you just need to make sure that all the air comes out. Roll the top. Do it at least minimum of 3 times. I've got quite a lot of space in there. And then, as I say, everything in there is safe and secured, so it won't rattle around in your bag, and it also keeps everything dry. Also, what's vital of importance when it comes to obviously wild camping are just your little bits as well. So even if it's summertime, it can be a bit cold in the evenings. So waterproof gloves and a nice beanie hat. So this is just going to take the edge off when you're actually wild camping as well. As I say, for in the evening times, just popping it on your heads, it's going to make a world of difference to you. Also in this X-Bed bag, I've got my head torch. Oh, tangled up in there. I've got my fire still. As I say, even though I've got a jet ball system in there, it's always good to have one of these spare handy because you never know what's going to happen. And I also have my trusty Swiss Army knife as well, which is the camper, which has got a wicked saw on it. So yeah, and as I say, they just quite literally just get all stored in together in one bag, and away you go. Yet again, stops the head torch and that lot from rattling around in the bag, just keeps everything safe and secure, as well as keeping everything dry as well. As I say, that's the greatest thing about these dry bags. It can organise your kit, it can reduce the actual minimum space you would say in your rucksack, and obviously it keeps everything nice and dry. And then obviously on top of that, I've got my compass, I've got my map, and I have, just in case, my walking pole there. Now obviously all the kit I've got here is not necessarily technical, but it is nice and lightweight. So if you're going to be going wild camping, it's definitely worth having a look at spending a bit more money on equipment, so then you're not having to take a 65-litre rucksack. As I say, I saw so many people doing that. And as I say, all I'm going to put all of this gear in is a 35-litre rucksack. Obviously, if you've got depending on how you're going to be wild camping as well, with Wayfarer foods or any, you know, compressed dry foods as well, or if you're actually going to be living off the land. That's kind of why I didn't put any food on this in this video, but yet again, they're nice and flat and compact and you can pretty much stuff them. So first things first, obviously, normally that's quite full. Yet again, if you are going to be going in the actual video itself, well, should I say in the actual using the actual bag itself. Where's the hole? There's the hole. So there we go, and then that will just clip on, where's the system for that? Oh, there it is. And then that will just feed through there. Yet again, so if you like to use your hydration bladder rather than a bottle, you know, you want a bit more to it. As I say, that's 2 litres rather than a litre. Yet again, just fill it up and put it in like you would not do a normal day sack. So next thing is the actual 2-man tent I've got here. And then what you want to do is you really want to just cram it in the bottom part of your rucksack. Now don't be scared. Obviously it's got ripstop material. It is fully waterproof, so you can really push down on it. Next thing, the poles themselves, you kind of just want to put in the central part, kind of tuck that under, and then just lay the pegs on the sides. So if you can show you on the inside just at this moment in time, that's pretty much what my kit is looking like at the moment. Now you're probably thinking that looks quite full, but what you don't realise is obviously you can push down easily on the actual tent itself. Next thing I'm going to load up is my walking poles. Now normally you put your walking poles on the outside of the tent, but what you really want to make sure, especially when you're wild camping, you don't want things loose on the actual outside of your bag. So if you can store them away, it's going to be a lot more beneficial for you. You're not going to lose them, you're not going to break them, they're not going to fall off anywhere. So as I say, try and keep things in the pockets as much as you can. So there we go. Next thing I'm going to pop in is my trusty sleeping bag, and I will put that in long ways. So there we go. And then, as I say, because the tent itself, you can pretty much pad down on there. And as I say, you can still got tons and tons and tons of room. Next thing, my waterproof jacket and my over trousers. Yet again, just tuck them in the top there. Then I get the trusty bovvy. Now obviously, these are really important when it comes to wild camping. You don't want to get stuck out in the middle of nowhere and having to try and get to your rucksack. So make sure when it comes to the storm shelter, you actually put it at the top part of your bag. So I just quite literally have that sat there. So the next thing, I get my roll mats. As I say, it's nice and small thermarest. As I say, well, what I've done is I've tried to reduce the weight as much as possible. Obviously you're spending a bit of money, but you know, considering you're not having to take a 65-litre rucksack, it's a massive bonus. Next thing, just to sit on top there, just got your Trek, your first aid kit. Then your jet boil, and obviously in my jet boil as well, I do have my gas as well as obviously it's self-igniting as well, but that's all in there. And then I put my hat and my glove, tighten that up like that. And then what I cleverly do is I use these compression straps. Now the front part on this rucksack, you actually have the rain cover. Obviously it's got water resistancy to it anyway, but just to kind of keep things a little bit separate. Obviously I've got a carabiner on my rucksack, so obviously I want to keep that away from the actual magnet, or should I say the actual compression strap itself. So all I'll do, clip that up on there, and then that just keeps it all away. And that stores my compass away from me. And then it's as simple as using this front pocket for my map, for my water, and then it is all about compression. As I say, you don't want things rattling around on the outside, on the front side, because that's when you lose things. So using the compression straps, if I just show you actually around here, it's all about keeping everything together. Where's the strap for that? Here we go. So clip that on, and then I'll turn it the other way. Just make that nice and loose. And then we've got the bottom part here. Just show you that. Just clip that on. And then finally, let's get this grass off there. Let's just cut up the top part. Now obviously on the top part as well, you do have additional storage on the top. I try not to fill that up too much so your bag isn't top heavy. But, there we have it. Or, as I say, if you've got your wayfarers or your dry foods, you can pretty much store them on the top there, and away you go. Ooh. So, I have probably about 3 days worth of wild camping in my 35-litre rucksack. Not 65, 35. It's nice, it's lightweight, there's no straining on my back whatsoever. And away you go. Now, the last point, obviously, I'm going to mention is probably a lot of people now seeing this video goes, what about socks? What about pants? What about other clothes? If you're going to be camping in the wild for the 3 days, it doesn't really matter what you smell like. You're all going to be stuck together, unfortunately. I would recommend possibly another spare pair of socks just in case your boots get wet or anything like that. But then, as I say, if your boots are wet anyway and you're in the wild, they're not going to really dry out that much. So there we have it, as I say, 3 days worth of probably wild camping, all in a 35-litre rucksack. I hope this video has helped, and for any more information, please visit us at simplyhike.co.uk.